is that we have committees for a reason, and we have hearings for a reason. And you can't do one thing on Police Week and not show up and not object and let these bills go through and then say another a few weeks later in a big speech on the floor. So I like to show up at the markups, and I like to make my case. And I will note that Senator Booker objected to my police reauthorization bill, the cops funding, the Clinton cops funding.
This is what frustrates me. I've passed numerous pieces of legislation for our police officers. I partnered with Chuck Grassley, the incredible senator from Iowa, on a bill very similar to the one I support about police officers who fall in the line of duty. In this case, it was COVID. Police officers who got COVID and died had difficulty proving it was a line of duty death. We passed legislation to make sure those families get the benefits. I've worked in bipartisan ways and within my own party to make sure we get resources to our police officers. I don't need lectures about the urgency of this.
From Minnesota.
Mr. President, I want to thank the Senator from Nevada for her work in trying to bring these bills to a vote on the floor. I want to thank Senator Grassley, the chairman of the Judiciary Committee. I want to thank Senator Durbin, who is there, the ranking member of the Judiciary Committee, someone who has, by the way, been a leading voice on immigration for years in this chamber. And one of the things I don't understand here is that we have committees for a reason, and we have hearings for a reason. And you can't do one thing on Police Week and not show up and not object and let these bills go through and then say another a few weeks later in a big speech on the floor. So I like to show up at the markups, and I like to make my case. And I will note that Senator Booker objected to my police reauthorization bill, the cops funding, the Clinton cops funding, long before Donald Trump came into office. So this is not just about this. This is a long dispute over this type of funding. Funding that I think is really important right now. Our country's law enforcement professionals do some of the hardest and most important work out there. Every day across America, we ask them to put everything on the line to keep us safe. We ask them to run towards danger and to guide others to safety. And every day across America, they put on their uniforms, their bulletproof vests, their badges, and they get to work. We need to have their backs, and that's what this package of bills does. By the way, bills supported out of the committee from some of the most liberal senators and some of the most conservative senators in this body. We came together. There were bills we would have liked to include that we did not. And if the objection is based on some of this horror show that's going on out of the White House, I agree with that piece of Senator Booker's points. And I have been equally vociferous in taking on this administration. But all of these bills came out of the committee unanimously, and I think they deserve that support on the floor. These bills help fund grants for mental health services for law enforcement. And by the way, if this issue, which I agree with Senator Booker on, about that all these states should be treated the same, well, then I suppose then he will be voting against all of this funding for New Jersey unless this is changed. So we should be watching for that for every single vote instead of just these bills that are in front of us that were supported unanimously out of committee. Grants that help law enforcement combat child sexual exploitation. Grants to help address the recruitment and retention crisis that is plaguing local law enforcement. Senator Cortez Masto's bill, as she explained, would help support the families of fallen law enforcement officers who were targeted and attacked because of their service as law enforcement. My bill, which has been now objected to, so I'm not going to mention it separately or ask for it to be called up separately. My bill, the Retired Law Enforcement Officers Continuing Service Act, done with Senator Grassley, would make sure that law enforcement agencies can continue to utilize the skills that talented law enforcement retirees have built up over their career of public service. There are many retired law enforcement officers who want an active retirement and are eager and ready to serve their community. This might sound like small ball, but when we are looking at how we're going to build up these police agencies, when we don't have enough police, when they're out there at these scenes getting shot at, we've got to be creative in terms of the ideas. And I believe strongly we're going to see another president in the future. We're going to see out of these next elections a check on some of this. But for now, I want to get these programs started. This bill would allow law enforcement agencies across the country to keep using their expertise to review video footage, to solve carjacking cases, or help cyber and financial crime investigations. This bill will also help train the next generation of law enforcement officers. These and the other police bills passed during Police Week, while those police officers are sitting there in the hearing room, when no one objected, they are bipartisan, common sense legislation. They passed the Judiciary Committee unanimously. And I can't help it if someone couldn't change their schedule to be there. I think that these hearings should mean something, and that people should be saying the same thing they say on Police Week when those people are sitting out there in the uniforms who have lost loved ones, as they say on this Senate floor. If we expect law enforcement to respond to some of the most difficult crises at a moment's notice, it's on us to set them up for success. I was there at the National Mall, where it rained the entire night, and not a family wasn't there when they thought it was going to be a nicer day. And that was this year on the National Mall to honor those fallen heroes, the Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Candlelight Vigil. Every single officer whose name was read that night was a beloved family member and a friend to so many, including 3 from my state. There was Officer Jamal Mitchell, who was shot and killed in the line of duty just last June, and Officers Paul Elmstead and Matthew Ruge, who along with firefighter-paramedic Adam Finseth were killed responding to a domestic violence call in Burnsville, Minnesota. They were called to duty. They answered the call. They actually got 7 kids out of this house and saved their lives. And then one was gunned down. The paramedic came in to try to save him. He was gunned down. And I will never forget hearing from Burnsville Police Sergeant Adam Medlicott, who was there with the 3 fallen first responders when they answered the call. He said of his fallen comrades, "We were there for 7 children. Nothing could be more honorable." He is absolutely right. You can't teach that kind of heroism. Our brave law enforcement professionals deserve to know that the resources they rely on will be there when they need them. And I hope we can work some of this out. I completely agree with Senator Booker about what this administration is doing. But you can't just pick out a few bills that came out of a committee and say, I'm going to stop those, and then allow for other bills that fund other parts of your budget in your state. Thank you.
Senator from New Jersey.
I was just called out by name, and I want to respond. This is what frustrates me. I've passed numerous pieces of legislation for our police officers. I partnered with Chuck Grassley, the incredible senator from Iowa, on a bill very similar to the one I support about police officers who fall in the line of duty. In this case, it was COVID. Police officers who got COVID and died had difficulty proving it was a line of duty death. We passed legislation to make sure those families get the benefits. I've worked in bipartisan ways and within my own party to make sure we get resources to our police officers. I don't need lectures about the urgency of this. One of my childhood best friends, a police officer in a small town in New Jersey, after a hard day's work, before he even went home to see his family, died by suicide. I don't need somebody implying in any way that this is not vital to me and my state, that we have resources for our police officers. That's why I support this package. That's why I'm a co-sponsor of some of the bills in this package. But what I am tired of is when the President of the United States of America violates the Constitution, trashes our norms and traditions. And what does the Democratic Party do? Comply? Allow him? Beg for scraps? No, I demand justice. Somebody's implying that this to me is not about resources for my state. I will fight for Jersey every day, every night. And when it comes to the police officers of my state, anybody who implies that something is going on other than my allegiance and fealty to the safety, strength, and protection of my police officers because they protect me and everybody in this body. This is a call, folks. The Democratic Party needs a wake-up call. I see law firms bending a knee to this president, not caring about the larger principles, that those free speech rights, that you could take on any client, why are you bending the knee? I see universities that should be bastions of free speech bending at the knee to this president. I see businesses taking late-night talk show hosts off the air because they dare to insult a president. I see people who want mergers suddenly think that they have to pay tribute to this president. And what are the very people here elected to defend the Constitution of the United States saying, oh, well, today, let's look the other way and pass some resources that won't go to Connecticut, that won't go to Illinois, that won't go to New York, that will go to the states he likes. That is complicity with an authoritarian leader who is trashing our Constitution. It's time for Democrats to have a backbone. It's time for us to fight. It's time for us to draw lines. And when it comes to the safety of my state being denied these grants, that's why I'm standing here. Don't question my integrity. Don't question my motives. I'm standing for Jersey. I am standing for my police officers. I'm standing for the Constitution, and I'm standing for what's right. And dear God, if you want to come at me that way, you're going to have to take it up with me. Because there's too much on the line right now in America. As people's due process rights and freedom of the speech rights and secret police are running around this country, picking people up off the streets who have a legal right to be here. There's too much going on in this country. When are we going to stand together for principles that I just heard that we're agreed with? When are we going to stand together? If we don't stand as Democrats, we deserve to lose. But if we stand united, if we stand strong, if we stand with other people, if we tell with a chorus of conviction in America what this president is doing is wrong, if we stand up and speak that way, dear God, we will win. Like all of those people at our ancestors who joined hands together and said, we shall overcome. No, not on my watch. I'm protecting Jersey today. I'm protecting our Constitution today. I'm standing today.